Welcome back to the workshop, everybody. So glad you could be with me here today. Your good buddy Walter here at the workbench. So, today, the topic is scrapers. What they are, how they're used, and how to sharpen. So this is a number 80 cabinet scraper. And it behaves a lot like a hand plane with a very high angle cutting edge. It does pull off a shaving, and it does, to some degree, level the surface. So this one happens to be my old faithful, made by Kunz from Germany. I have a second one here. It's a spare. It's made by Record. If you need one, let me know. I don't need two. And then you have the less expensive method, and that is a card scraper, which is nothing more than a piece of spring steel that has been hardened. And as you can see, it peels off shavings which look very much like planer shavings. Okay? But you do not get a burnished surface. You get a scraped surface, which is ready for either some fine sandpaper or ready for finish and then some fine sandpaper. So, why would you use a scraper? Simply put, you use a scraper when you have a wood surface that no matter what you do with a hand plane, you just can't seem to get it smooth enough. You get tear out. A scraper will not tear out regardless of the grain direction. I can go in either way, and depending on how you have it sharpened, you will get shavings in both directions. One will be better than the other. Okay? So how do we sharpen them? It's fairly simple, and I'll go through the process with you, but I'm not going to actually sharpen them. I will go through the process with you because these are all sharp. I hate to dull them. There's two ways to sharpen scrapers. The first way, and I'll do one edge. I'll do this edge here. You put your scraper in your vise. You take a file. It can be a medium to fine file. You hold that file square to the sides of the scraper or flat to the surface, and you file it back and forth. Okay, that will do two things. One, it'll straighten it from front to back. And two, it'll make this 90 degrees to the sides. When you file, it creates a burr. So there is a burr there. It's not a fantastic burr, but for some fine scraping, you can use it as a scraper. See, it's dust that you'll be taking off, but it is sharp. So that's one way. The next way is with some form of sharpening stone. For scrapers, I recommend a diamond plate because you'll run less of a risk of digging in and ruining it. But I still skew it a little bit. And you just keep working that edge square, trying not to rock it. Once you do that, and once this edge is clean of scratches from the file, then you're ready for the next step. And that's called burnishing or turning the burr. Now there's still a little bit of a burr there. So what I'm going to do is lay it down on the diamonds and just go back and forth a few times on each side until that burr is pretty much gone. That'll do. For demonstration purposes, that will do. Now comes the preparation for turning the burr. This is called a burnisher. There's different makes. These are round, they make oval, and they make triangle. I have round. So you come to the edge of your workbench and you lay your scraper down. You bring your burnisher in until it's flat. And you go back and forth. And you're preconditioning that steel. You get into a workshop of old-time cabinet makers, you hear this sound all the time. It sounds more like this. Okay? So now you know you have no more burr there, and that's preconditioned. Now you want to precondition the flat, and you just go back and forth across it square. Next comes turning the burr. Turning the burr means you want to move the burnisher 5 degrees, 7 degrees, 15 degrees, some angle, okay? And the more severe, the harder you're going to turn the burr. Now, this is a Sandvik scraper, and it is extremely hard. I have a hard time pulling a decent burr on this, but it's what I use. So, typically you'll find people hold them in their hand, and they bend them slightly like this, and they'll turn the burr on one edge, then they pull it back the other way, and they turn the edge the other way. And I can now feel the burr on that. Another way to do it is, if you're a little less confident, put it in your vise, find your 90, come up a few degrees, and turn your burr. Let's see how we did. You don't get this perfect every time, but sometimes you luck out. So I'm getting a bit of a burr on this side, getting a bit of a burr on that side, but I'm not getting the cut I would like. It's not too bad for fine scraping. So what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll burnish this a few times. See if we get a little bit better cut. This is hard steel. I don't quite understand why I get Nice cutting edges on one side and not on the other. Yeah, this side does not harden, does not pull a burr as nice as this other side. This other side pulls a beautiful burr. So maybe I should just forget about using that one side and only use this side. Scrapers come in, card scrapers come in all different shapes and sizes. Your typical one is rectangular like that. They also make one that has a convex and concave surface, so you could actually use the straights, get 4 edges, convex, get 2 edges, concave, get 2 edges. And then you have the French curve, where you can get any shape you need. This is good for moldings and carvings. This would be for like spoons and chair legs. Now, so now you get a feeling for what a card scraper can do. But there's another tool called the cabinet scraper. The cabinet scraper, as you saw at the beginning of the video, behaves more like a planer almost. And it's used on flat surfaces. Tabletops, chair legs, table legs, anywhere where you have difficult grain that is hard to plane. So, sharpening them is a little different. Excuse me. The blade, the scraper blade, while similar, is different in so much as you have a 45-degree bevel instead of square. The burnishing is the same, but you only get one edge. So, similar process, sharpening stone. Little less difficult because it's behaving more like a 45-degree chisel. You basically sharpen it. Can you do this with a file? Absolutely. If I was doing a floor, if I was scraping a floor, I would not use sharpening stones or diamond plates. I would only use a file and maybe a burnisher. Okay, so you sharpen that 45 as if you were sharpening a plane, and then you got the burr on the back, which you can take off. In this particular instance, I'm going to prep it for burnishing. Same as before. You lay it flat. Okay, you lay it flat, and you take off any burr that was there, and you prep it for turning the burr. And now you can either push or you can pull, whichever you prefer. I like pushing. So you go from the corner, until you feel the burr that you need for the cut that you need. If you're doing roughing work like I mentioned, if you're scraping a floor for finishing, you don't need a fancy fine burr. You just need to be able to scrape that floor flat and clean. So, how I put the blade in, I hope you can see this. There is a screw here, there's a set screw here. You loosen that set screw all the way up. The blade can go in and out. I put it in from the bottom. That's to avoid damaging the burr. I lay it down on a piece of flat wood, a flat surface, all right? And I wiggle it back and forth a little bit to make sure it's sitting flat, but not that it's really protruding. Then I tighten the screw. Very light, finger tight. And I test it. See that shaving? Look at that. That looks like it came out of a hand plane. I can lighten that up a little bit. Sometimes you can tilt the blade so you get more or less cut, and then if you need more cut, I mean, look at that. You can actually plane a board that is difficult, where the grain does not want to plane with a regular hand plane, and you can get rid of tear out. So, as I said, I have a spare in case somebody needs one. So we've covered the bases. What I would do after I use my cabinet scraper is I come in and follow up with my card scraper, set fine. You find your most coarse edge, you do your shavings, and then you switch to a somewhat finer edge. And that wood is ready for finish. You can hit it with some 220, 240, start your finishing process, let your first level of finishing cure, come back and hit it with 320, let that cure, come back and hit it with 400, and so on. Well, I hope this helped somebody. Let me know if you have any questions, and if you found this useful, helpful, maybe entertaining. Don't forget, give it the old thumbs up, and subscribe. And don't forget, you need to ring that bell when you subscribe so that you get notifications of new posts. And most of all, head out to your shop. Go make some shavings. Walter out.